This is our agenda for tonight's session on using Votebuilder to write scripts and use survey questions. I'll do a quick overview of Votebuilder, then walk through creating a script, including editing and adapting existing scripts, share a couple script writing best practices, talk a little bit about survey questions, and then I will wrap up with some additional resources. And if we get through the content in time, I will be able to do a live demonstration of some of these skills. Okay, for a quick Votebuilder overview, I always like to stress these 3 points about working with Votebuilder. It takes patience, practice, and experimentation. So you're not going to learn Votebuilder in an hour. Brian and I have a combined 10 plus years of experience using Votebuilder, and I'm still learning things all the time. The more you use it, though, it does get easier and faster. There are some skills, some tasks that I do on a regular basis that now I can get done in 8 minutes when it took me maybe an hour to figure it out the first time around. So practice does help. There's also more than one way to do things. I'm going to show you the processes I follow. If you have a process, you use different steps and you get the right result, then that's cool. Don't sweat it. And there are a couple points where I will talk about the decisions you can make about your strategy and your tactics, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. Finally, here, you pretty much can't break Votebuilder. So I do encourage experimentation. If you're trying to figure out how to do something, try some stuff. It's honestly how I have figured out quite a bit of Votebuilder myself. I don't want you to get frustrated and spend too much time trying to figure something out when someone else might know the answer, though. So do some experimentation, try some stuff, but also reach out when you need help. If you are someone who's comfortable with 2 screens going and you want to log into Votebuilder now, you can, or since I'm recording this session, if people are watching this recording, this might be a good point to log into Votebuilder with your action ID and follow along. Quick reminder that we have 2 main sections within Votebuilder. We have My Voters. This is the voter role. So when you are looking to get out the vote or have persuasion, identification, conversations with voters, you will use the My Voters tab. My Campaigns is a little bit less intuitively named. So My Campaigns is where you will find your volunteers. If you are a county party chair, you probably have several years worth of information built up in My Campaigns. If you are a candidate, you will start with an empty My Campaigns and need to build that up. This is a slide I've shared in other trainings for building your contact list. I'm just going to throw it right here so that when I send this information out, you have this slide available to you if you need it. I'm not going to really go through creating lists for phone banks or canvases in this session tonight. I'm going to walk through creating a script next, but I do want to pause here first and see what questions you might have about Votebuilder in general before I go into scripts. Yeah, John, if you're sending out emails, definitely BCC. Anita from Red Wine and Blue. I wonder if you know my friend Lexi Coburn. I think she might be working with your group. Okay, let's move on. Creating a script. Before we go into the mechanics of this, I'm going to pause here and I'd like to see some answers in the chat, but why do we use scripts? I want to see if anybody has any ideas. I have a couple thoughts, but I'd like to hear from this group as well. Manage a conversation. Stay on task. Oh, I like that. Keep us, yeah, on track. Yeah, ensure the message is delivered. So here are the couple of points that I thought of about why scripts are important. And we've really kind of hit on this second one here pretty good. Provide specific guidance on the information we want to collect, the conversations we want to have. I also think this first point is important.
Excuse me. Sorry to interrupt, but I won't be able to won't be able to attend this meeting. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
And
Thank
just
you.
so if I can, do you think I have a copy of what you guys talked about here?
You will be on the email tomorrow. Yes, Jeffrey.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so this first point here is one that I didn't see quite come up in the chat, which is about giving volunteers a starting point. I lead a training every Thursday evening on canvassing to help volunteers get prepared to knock on doors, to talk to voters when we canvass on the weekends. And quite a few volunteers are nervous, thinking that they have to come up with the whole conversation. And they're actually relieved when they hear that we do provide a script. And if you've canvassed or if you've attended that training, you know it's not a super robust script. We're not, doing Shakespeare in the park, but having a starting point really helps first-time volunteers in particular feel like they're not starting with a blank page. What about when we use scripts? So we talked about why. What are some of the occasions when we might use scripts? Canvases, phone banks. Yep. Any other suggestions? All right. Texting. Grocery stores would be kind of, yeah, I see what you're saying, like a location where we might be canvassing or doing voter registration. So here are the ideas I had about when when we use scripts. So I was thinking of it in terms of scripts we use with voters and scripts we use with volunteers. So with voters, canvassing, phone banking, text banking. With volunteers, I was thinking about recruitment calls and confirmation calls. So for example, I have a couple of volunteers who help me with confirmation calls. And you probably got a confirmation call today from Lori. And she's been doing it with me for several months now. But at first I did walk her through and train her on the script on how to have confirmation calls. So those are a couple of occasions. I see the comment about talking to family members. I would say when you've got your messaging down from talking to voters, it'll probably make it a little easier for you to talk to family members, but it's not as much script driven, probably. But with canvassing, phone banking, texting, we literally are starting with the script and taking a really methodical approach. But good luck with those conversations. I know what that's like. So this is another reminder slide here, because when I have led the building a canvas training and building a phone bank training, I walk through how to select the script to build your phone bank or canvas. So this is just a reminder here of what that looks like and where you select the scripts. So when you look at this information, tomorrow when I send the follow-up email, you can refer back to those places. I'm going to walk through the steps now for creating a script in Votebuilder. So what I have here is a screenshot. I'm making a script in my campaign, and from the home page, you will select the scripts section. And what I normally do is look for it on the left-hand sidebar. It's kind of towards the bottom. and select scripts. And now I have an arrow pointing to the add new script button. When you click on that button, there are 4 steps to complete on the next screen. First, name your script. And I always recommend using a naming convention so that your scripts are, or anything in Votebuilder really has a consistent naming style so you can keep track of things. In script building here, I've got the year, I've got the audience, and the purpose. So 2024 volunteer recruitment. There is also by number 2 here a description box, so you can provide some more detail there. What I wrote here is general volunteer recruitment script for 2024 election. Depending on your naming convention and if you use acronyms or abbreviations, it's helpful to then spell that out in the description. It's optional, but I do really recommend it. And step number 3 here is selecting which database you want the script to live in. So it can be in my campaign or it can be in my voter. So this is a volunteer recruitment script. So this is going to live in my campaign. But if you were doing a GOTV script, that would probably be in my voter. I've given it a name, put some description, picked my database, and then step 4 is to select the next button. On the left-hand side here, you can see that now it has created my script with the information that I put in there. On the right-hand side, this is the next step, which is to determine if you want to use a linear script type or a branched script type. This is where Brian and I don't always approach this the same way. There's more than one way to do things. A linear script, I find to be a little faster and easier, and it really just goes question, question, question. A branched script is more sophisticated, and each question is based on the previous answer. So a linear script would be, are you still joining us for our training tonight at 6? You say yes, and they go, great, we'll see you there. You say no, and they say, bummer, see you next time. A branched script could be something that says, will you be at the training at 6 o'clock tonight? And you say, no, I can't make it. The script then might go into a new branch to say, we also have trainings tomorrow night. Can you join us tomorrow? We have an email distribution list. Do you want to join that? So it might take a different path based on the previous answer. A more likely scenario of how you might use this would actually be working on like a phone bank or a canvas for voters. So if you ask somebody, what issue is most important to you, and then ask them if they support Democrats or not. If they say they're undecided, maybe you would go in a different direction, have a persuasion conversation. Whereas if they say they're strong Democratic voters, then you might have a conversation on recruiting them to volunteer. Or come October, here's where your polling location is. So that's kind of the difference between linear and branched. Brian, how do you feel about that description?
I think that that's a pretty good description. The one thing that I will mention in terms of complexity for linear scripts versus branch scripts is branch scripts are more complex to set up, but they're usually much easier for volunteers, particularly in navigating on a small screen with minivan and canvassing than a linear script. I've found personally and with volunteers that with linear scripts, particularly long ones with a lot of different sections, it's easy to get lost. You're constantly sort of scrolling around trying to figure out where the next section of relevant information is, particularly if you've got a bunch of different areas depending on how the person's responding. Having a branch script, it's definitely more complex to put together on the front end, but as people answer the questions, it remains tight and focused on the specific areas of the conversation that you need to be. So that's my pitch for the branch script.
Thank you. And I should add that to the slide. It's faster and easier for the person setting it up. If it's the first time you've ever made a script, maybe you start with something linear to get used to the skills, and then as you get more comfortable and have used it more, go to branched perhaps. One thing, and Brian did mention this, but with a branch script, you really need to think about the logic of how the conversation's flowing and test it to make sure you don't have dead ends in your script. All right, for this demonstration, I am doing a linear script. So the basic elements of a script would be an introduction. You have to have at least one survey question and then a close. So I'm going to demonstrate a pretty basic script here. You can see on the left-hand side, there are different types of components, different elements that you can add to your script. There is a text box, also a box if you have a Spanish translation. There is a survey question, activist code, volunteer activity, and event. Those are all elements that you can add to the script. For this demonstration, I think this is a volunteer recruitment or a confirmation call example. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a text element to the script. You will add these elements one at a time. So I'll paste or write the text I want in that text box and then hit the add button. I do write my text in a Google Doc or at least an email or something and then paste it in here because the boxes are kind of small. I think just from a usability standpoint, I find that more helpful. So I put my text in there and then I'm going to hit the add button. Now we can see the linear script preview as the script is being built. So my first block, this is the text that I pasted in the box on the previous screen. I've bracketed it here. Hi, is this name? Hi name, my name is blank. And then I have the script. Oh yeah, this is a volunteer recruitment script. So I've added that introduction, and now I'm going to add a survey question. In this case, I'm asking what issue matters most to people, which is a survey question we have in Votebuilder. It is 2024 issues, 23-24X issues. That's the name of the script. So I'm going to select that and hit the add button. Now you can see the first box was the text. The second box is this survey question. What's an issue you consider when voting and would like to see focused on more by elected officials? And then there are quite a few options for that specific survey question. Number 3, I'm going to add another survey question here. So I've got text and I've said, thank you for sharing that. We need to have these sorts of conversations with millions of voters before November. Add the text button. And then, oops, sorry. Number 4 on the right-hand side, I'm going to add the survey question to see if people are interested in volunteering. So now I've added volunteer ask, which is yes, no, maybe later. And then volunteer task, knock doors, phone bank, text, voter registration, to get specific about what areas people want to help. So I've added these 2 elements, and on the right-hand side, you can see now I have 4 and 5 showing up in my script preview. I'm going to close this out with some closing text. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. Add that button, and then we have a very basic script. Now, what I have here, this is when you have a script created, you can go back and edit it. So this is the edit script screen. So I'm back in my script and I want to make some changes. Couple of things you can do. First, I have a red box here on the left-hand side screen where you can click on delete or edit. If you click delete, it will delete that whole chunk. So chunk 1 would go away, chunk 2, if you hit delete. And Catherine, the answer to your question is, if you're doing a linear script, it doesn't skip over that. If you built it as a branched script, you could have it so that if they say, no, I don't want to volunteer, it goes straight to the close. So it depends on how you want to build it. The second thing I want to show you here on this far right screenshot, I have a box along the edge, and it's a little light to see, but there are 3 gray bars. And if you click and hold on that, you can rearrange the order in which your questions or your script elements appear. So maybe I decided the flow of the conversation wasn't quite what I wanted, or I accidentally forgot a component, I need to add it and then get it in the right order. And what you'll see there on the right-hand side screenshot at the bottom, I have highlighted the Save Order button. So if you rearrange the order of your elements, you do need to save that order. And again, you can delete any of these components if you decide you don't want it anymore, or you can just click the Edit button so that you can edit the text that you have in there. Another way you can build out your scripts is you can duplicate an existing script. So the state party shares some scripts with the county parties, and you don't want to edit the scripts that we have provided for you because it would actually edit for everyone statewide. We don't want to do that. But if there is a script we have in there that you want to use, but you think it needs some adjustments, you should duplicate that script. So what you can see here is I've drawn a red arrow to the Save As button. So I've got, this is my training confirmation call script. I'm going to click Save As, give my new version a new name. Again, using your naming convention or, indicating why it's different from the base script, and then hit the Save button. So that is information and examples on how to create a script, edit an existing script, or do a save as to duplicate a script. I'm going to pause here. I've seen quite a bit in the chat. I haven't been able to keep up. Brian, is there anything I'm missing from the chat?
Nothing that I haven't addressed.
Okay, cool. Martha, if you have Votebuilder access now and you go into the scripts section of Votebuilder, you will be able to see the list of which scripts you have so you can see them there. I'm going to make myself a note to show what that looks like when we get to our live demo, which I think we'll have time for. All right, let's talk about some script writing best practices. And this is a list of kind of the core scripts that you probably want to have, whether you have it from 2020 or 2022 when you do a save as, duplicate it to make it relevant for 2024. Or if you are a candidate and you're starting from scratch, this is kind of the list of scripts you probably want to develop. A script for confirmation calls, for volunteer recruitment. Identification is really about figuring out who supports you or Democrats in general. Persuasion is a little bit more about talking to undecided or swing voters and really having a conversation about what issues are most important to them. And then turnout is for GOTV, get out the vote. So mid-October on, you'll want a script to go back to the people we've identified as supporters and help them make a plan to vote, whether that's early vote in person or on election day. When you're thinking about building out your scripts. These are a couple of questions for you to consider, and these are strategic choices that you will make based on what you're trying to accomplish. So first, who are you targeting? Are you targeting, first off, voters or volunteers? That will indicate if you're in my campaigns or my voters. But you can go a layer or two deeper than that too. So if you are targeting volunteers, are they people who volunteered in 2020 and haven't since then? Or are they people who volunteered in the past month? You might write a bit of a different script. If they're someone you haven't seen since 2020, it might be like, thank you for your hard work in 2020. We're ramping up for 2024. Meanwhile, if it's somebody who has volunteered with you in the past month, the script is probably more like, you know, thanks for volunteering with us this summer. We got our eye on the fall. Let's get to work. Something like that. Those are just kind of examples. But, and if you're targeting voters, are they strong Democrats who need encouraged to get to the polls? Are they independent voters? And, you know, we want to talk to them about why they should vote for Democrats up and down the ballot. Those are some things for you to think about. Also, what is your goal? Is your goal to increase the name ID for your maybe local state senator? Is your goal to help people get to their polling location and cast their ballot? Is your goal to invite strong Democrats to get engaged with your precinct or your county party? Those all might have slightly different scripts. This third one here, who will be using the script? This goes back a little bit to the conversation, you know, Brian and I had about linear versus branched. The linear script is easy for you to start with. There is more work for your volunteers to do, to sort through it, to have good conversations. Meanwhile, a branch script really might help them know the path of conversations. So will you be building the script for people who know intimately what's going on? So my confirmation volunteer, I don't adjust my script every time that I send it to her now because she and I have been working together for 7 months, 6 months. So she doesn't need me to give her as much detail as she did when she started. So all of that will go into how you are building out your script. Complicated isn't inherently better. So I copy and paste from existing scripts. I don't tend to make things from scratch. I have like a Google Doc with all kinds of different scripts that I have used over the years. And that's my go-to when I'm making something new. What have I made that was similar that I can copy and paste or duplicate, or at least have a starting point? So I reuse as much as I can and then update it for the dynamic or the circumstances. Use templates and bracketing. So you can see here, I bracketed in the script example, you know, the person's name and my name. Do you plan on voting for candidate in November? It really makes it faster and easier for you to maintain. And it helps have a long-term view of what voters have done over time. If you have, you know, Brian and I have robust Votebuilder access, and there are just, I don't know, thousands of scripts in there because maybe they've been a little bit over customized. So when you can use templates, when you can use bracketing, please do. It'll make it a little bit easier on yourself. And then share best practices. So if you've come up with something that's working really well, if you have a good resource, share it with other people in your county, share it with other counties. I'm all for sharing information and tips and tricks as we come up with it. I'm going to talk about survey questions next, but again, I'm going to pause here for just a minute. Any questions? Delete a whole script. Yeah, let me demo that. Which I'm gonna have to remember how to do, but I've done it because I made test ones. I don't think the state templates are generally branched. Brian, do you know?
The NCDP templates are typically not branched. They are copying and editing a branch script is significantly more difficult than copying and editing a linear script.
It is. In fact, when I haven't used any branched scripts here in 2024 cycle. I've used them in the past and I don't build them in Votebuilder. I build them in a Google Doc because I need to be able to see the relationship between things better. All right, let me talk a little bit about survey questions and then I'll do a live demo. And yeah, I do like that question from Terry, and it's one of the things in 2025. I'm hoping to circle back around with some Votebuilder training on what to do in the odd number years, including some data maintenance and hygiene stuff. So I'll show you how to delete scripts. Survey questions. So survey questions in Votebuilder are used to track information that can change, that are dynamic. It can have a lot of different options as an answer. So an example here is, who does someone plan to vote for and how strong is their support? A strong Dem, lean Dem, undecided, lean R, strong R, like that can change back and forth, particularly in the undecided, lean Republican, lean Democrat space over the course of an election. So a survey question is a good way to get that information so we can know where people stand and track that information over time. Survey questions are script elements. So this is it's like the third box down. It's got a little bit of a purple bar there. There are a ton of survey questions in Votebuilder that you should be able to use. There should be something that already exists that you can use. This is one of the reasons we use all that bracketing, so that the survey questions can be used by lots of different county parties, for example. If you think that you need a specific survey question and there's nothing in Votebuilder that is a close match for what you're trying to do, you can submit a request to Brian. We'll put his email in the chat here at some point. Let Brian know why you're requesting it and try to make a case for why it is different or better than something that's already in existence. So as an example of something that probably should not be a new survey question would be, do you support the Wake County Democratic Party? Do you support the, New Hanover Democratic Party? Like, we could have survey questions for all 100 counties in the state, but that's not really that valuable. So it's more likely to be bracketed. And then you could have language that says, do you want to volunteer with the Wake County Dems, instead of having survey questions for each county asking if people want to volunteer, as an example. Brian, I feel like I didn't explain that super well. Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, so part of the reason why we are making a big push to use as many generic multi-purpose survey questions this year, as opposed to having individualized survey questions for each candidate or each county, is it makes reporting across multiple committees a lot easier. It makes it easier for, if a county party is doing a canvas for, a state senator, for them to see that the work got done, to what effect. It also makes it way easier for us and the coordinated, we're operating across, pretty much all of the different counties, all of the different state senate districts, all the state house, to just have one state house question that we can put in a lot of different scripts and just change the wording of the script around it. Rather than having to go and hunt for the very specific survey question that you need for each script that you're building out.
Thank you. Maybe there's a way I can demo this here in a minute when I do a screen share. Okay, I'm actually going to stop the recording now. I'm going to share some additional resources and then do a live demonstration. So give me one moment here.